Hello, boys and girls. Greg from the Scary Spirits podcast here to make you another cocktail. This week's cocktail is the Black Lady, and it is the featured cocktail in today's episode. I'm going to start with our shaker with ice. I'm going to use this new shaker that I got as a gift. Look at that, boys and girls. Spooky. To that, we're going to add 2 ounces Grand Marnier, I think. 2 ounces. Next, Kahlua, 1/2 an ounce. Finally, brandy. A dash of brandy. There. Then we shake. Next, take our cocktail glass and strain it in there. The Black Lady. Not quite black. It's pretty good though. Yeah. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy the podcast. See ya.
If you like Gothic horror, you're in the right place this week on the Scary Spirits podcast with the movie The Woman in Black. It's a wonderfully gorgeous movie, with the haunted estate itself taking on a pivotal role in the film. And it's appropriately creepy, with strange characters, extra disturbing deaths, and frightening toys scattered throughout. But probably the hardest part of watching this movie is realizing a grown-up Harry Potter is in the lead role. Just another sign we're all getting older. Like we need any more of that nonsense. Cheers!
Welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast. Please be advised that the presenters may use adult language and or discuss adult situations. This podcast is not intended for younger listeners or those that may be easily offended. So, if you're ready, let's go.
Hello, boys and girls. This is Greg.
Hi everyone, I'm Karen.
And welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast, the podcast that combines the two very different but highly compatible worlds of scary films and alcoholic spirits.
What could possibly go wrong?
Indeed, Karen. How are you, Karen?
I'm traumatized.
Traumatized?
How are you, Greg?
Better than you, apparently.
The movie didn't traumatize me. Not really. It was the blood draw for the yearly blood test today.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I know you
keep
forget because
forgetting.
for most people it's nothing, but for me I haven't stopped thinking about it since I scheduled it last week. So, but I made it.
Good for you, Karen. I'm proud of you.
You know what? You got to take your small victories, and I don't care how everybody makes fun of me. That's a victory for me.
Good.
So my adrenaline rush is coming down, and whenever I get through it, I always buy myself.
So really, you're not traumatized. You sound like you're pretty proud of yourself.
Well, I'm still traumatized, trust me. But I always buy myself a donut and a Coke afterwards as a reward. So I'm crashing from blood sugar and traumatized. But hey, I'm here. I'm going to be oodles of fun today.
You'll be extra delightful.
Yes,
All right, Karen, was this film my choice?
it was.
The film I have chosen is The Woman in Black from 2012. Way, way back in 2012, Karen.
Because,
Well, this episode comes out on February 5th, and The Woman in Black was released on February 3rd in 2012.
do you have a drink?
I do, Karen. The drink is called the Black Lady.
Ooh, sounds creepy, doesn't it? So there you go.
We're going to need 2 ounces of Grand Marnier. Is that how you say it?
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, look at me.
You're on fire today.
A half an ounce of Kahlua and a dash of brandy. We're going to put all that into a shaker with ice and shake and then strain into a cocktail glass.
Lovely.
It's not quite black, though, is it?
No, it's kind of a dark brown.
Not bad, though. Not bad.
Eh.
All right. I kind of like it. Should we give our friends, after that, that big
Endorsement from me.
endorsement? Yeah. Should we give our friends and listeners?
To be fair, I just don't like Kahlua. So,
That's true.
it's just, I mean, and you can taste it. So I'm meh. But yes, if you like Kahlua, you're going to love it. So go make it.
Coffee, right? Or coffee.
Yeah.
I don't like coffee, but I like Kahlua.
Go figure,
I don't know
Greg.
how that. I don't know how that works.
What could it be that's in Kahlua that you like that's not in coffee? We'll ponder that while everyone makes their drink.
Yeah. Hold on. And we're back.
Yes, we are.
Karen, might you have a brief synopsis for us?
I do.
Go on, tell us all the story.
Arthur Kipps, a lawyer, is recently widowed and grieving the loss of his wife when he is sent to a remote village to put a deceased eccentric's affairs in order. Soon after his arrival, it becomes clear that the villagers are hiding a terrible secret. Kipps discovers that his late client's house is haunted by the spirit of a woman who is trying to find someone and something she lost, and that no one, not even the children, is safe from her terrible wrath.
Thank you, Karen. We are a match, and that's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
As far as synopsi go. All right, Karen, tell us everything you really enjoyed or were pleasantly surprised by in this Hammer production, Karen. A Hammer production.
It is a Hammer production,
This
and
was
there are
their-
touches of Hammer in it.
This was their big return in 2012.
I thought there were touches of Hammer in it, which I appreciated. I actually liked it. I thought the cinematography was beautiful. It's very gothic, which I love. The houses that I would live in if they weren't old and decrepit. I mean, there's just some really beautiful shots in it. And Daniel Radcliffe is the star, and he has startling blue eyes. And sometimes
that's the same person who played Harry Potter, boys and girls, in case you don't know.
but sometimes they made his eyes match the scenery, and it was striking. I thought there's just beautiful shots in it. Lovely scenery. There's the touches of Hammer, the good costumes, the good sets. I found it scary. I was like, oh. Like it was very tense, very creepy. So I enjoyed it. I thought the acting was good. Well, that's kind of all I got. I think it's good. What about you? What did you like?
I originally saw this film back in 2012 with my gift of a wife, Karen.
Wow.
And I remember I really liked it then. And I probably like it even more now. Maybe after seeing it.
Effects were good
time.
too. Lighting effects. There were a lot of reflections that were really good.
Not quite the same though, if you're not in a theater. I'll say that. Can you imagine?
I bet the surround sound would have been really good in the theater.
I I did jot a few things down. I wrote beautiful sets and locations. I thought the music was good. It's a Hammer film, but it's got good blood, Karen. It's got good
It did
blood.
have much better blood. Doesn't have hammer blood.
I wrote the acting's really good. I like the startle scares. It's got good startle scares if you're into that thing. If that's what floats your boat.
Yeah, it got me a couple times.
And I agree, it kind of takes you there. You know what I mean? I really like
Yeah,
it.
he's way braver than I would have ever been. If someone's jiggling the doorknob, I'm not opening the door. I mean, there were times where I was just like, don't do that. Don't go there. What are you doing? They also did not kill the dog, which I like.
None
And
of
there
them.
and there is definitely sequel potential.
There was a sequel.
Oh, okay.
Daniel Radcliffe was not in it, and I'm not even sure how connected it is to this one.
Really nice mirror work, really nice reflection in windows, really
Yep.
just beautifully shot.
There was a there might have been one thing where I'm like, did I miss that? Did I not catch that in the theater? You know what I mean? Because there's lots of things going on. Like,
Well, you can remember from 2012 what
no, I just saw it and I'm like, ooh, I don't remember all that mirror play. But there were some things I definitely remembered, but I don't remember the whole white versus black thing in it either between the two women.
Oh,
I didn't catch
yeah.
that until like I think the next to the last time we saw the woman in white. And I'm like, oh, wow. You have the women in black and the women in white.
And he sees both of them
Yeah,
throughout the film. So,
he does. Was there anything you didn't like?
well, there's two things that I have that I didn't like. And one is there were a lot of very long walking down the hallway kinds of things, multiple times. Did I hate it? No. Does it add to the suspense? Yes. But I'm like, oh, he's back in the hallway. He's going to the door. It was a little repetitive. I didn't hate it, but it got repetitive. I'm like, okay, you've already got me here. I already know this is happening. We don't have to have that long, slow walk, which you would do if you were afraid. So it fits, but there were too many of those. And I'm gonna be honest, the other thing that I have here, I was on board all the way till the end. And I'm like, I don't get it. Like I thought everything was done, and I think I missed something. What did I miss? Was that not I was that not his mom? Like what happened? I thought everything seemed wrapped up, you know? And then there's this final scene, which is gruesome. And then, well, not the final scene isn't gruesome, but towards the end, you hear the splat and everything. And I was like, what? I didn't get it. I was kind of, and then the end, and then on Amazon, the next movie starts playing. I'm like, no, wait a minute. I totally didn't understand what happened, and I must have missed something early on that would have given
I
me
don't
the
think you
answer.
did.
But I'm like, what happened? I completely don't understand the last 5 minutes. I mean, I understand what happened, but I don't understand why. I mean, I get the concept and everything, but I'm like, why did this, So that's the only thing I
Okay.
have. It ended, and I just was like, what? What? I felt like I missed something big somewhere. Maybe reading one of the letters or one of the documents or something that the person wasn't who I thought. I don't know. But it was great until the very end when I didn't get it.
Okay. Sorry for that, Karen.
It's not your fault. Maybe you can explain it when we get there.
We'll see what I can do. I mean, I did write down what happened, so I may not have written down why it happened, but I wrote down what happened.
Is there anything you didn't like?
And I wasn't sure about the ending this time. But I thought it was still fine. So I thought it might have been a little, well, I don't know, we'll get to it. And I thought Mr. Daly was a little too quick to buy into the whole lift the curse thing.
Well, I don't think, well, but he did. Well, yeah. Well, they're all kind of like, he doesn't,
I mean, it takes place in like 2 days, It's
Arthur doesn't act near as afraid as you would think someone would. I don't know.
True.
They do set up that he's desperate and he has to stay there in order to keep his job, which will keep him with his son and all those things. So I get it, but he's a very brave soul. I'll give him that.
And I got what you said about the repetitive. And I thought watching it the second time, I was thinking it was going to be more repetitive. I thought a lot more of that happened from what I remember.
Oh, well, maybe if I saw it again, it wouldn't be as, it's just noticeable. That's a good word for it. It's not necessarily bad. It's not ineffective. It's not any of those things, but it's noticeable.
Yeah, it might have seemed longer to me the first time when I saw it. It must have, because it didn't. I was expecting it to be longer.
The more I sit with it, the more I can't quite get it. But I liked it very much. I think I might like to watch it again and see if I can figure it out a little better.
All right, what kind of cocktail rating do you want to give it? Do you have anything else that you didn't like or?
No, I think it's a two. I'd give it a two. It's a lot better than a lot of movies we've given threes to. Would you agree?
Oh, I agree. I totally agree. Like I said, I really like it. So
Did your gift of a wife like it?
don't remember if she liked it or not, but I know she doesn't remember it because I was telling her about it. Remember we saw it in the theater? And she didn't know, couldn't remember. It was one of those where, are you sure it was me? I'm like, yeah, it was 2012.
Dates with Greg are obviously very memorable. Are you sure it was me?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
All
Did
right.
this start a comeback for them? Or is this like their last hurrah?
No,
Or
no, it did.
it did?
We've seen one newer than this. We've
So
watched
was the
one newer than this.
lodge
The
after
Lodge.
this? Was
The
after
Lodge was
this?
much after this, I think.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
probably.
All right. Before we get into it, scene by scene, Karen, would you like to hear a review from the time?
Of course I would.
But first, Karen, I have to tell you, this has a 66% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, a 6.4 out of 10 on
That's
IMDb.
consistent.
What do you think Google users
It
think?
seems low to me. Sometimes I like films that other people don't like very much. I'm going to go 82%.
I'm giving it to you, Karen. It's 83. So
Oh, that's
you
pretty good.
you were one away without going over. So I'll give you that one. And the review I have is from Roger Ebert, Karen,
Yes.
from February 1st, 2012. So he must have got a preview or seen a preview copy. And I haven't read this yet.
Way to be
So
prepared. We
yeah,
are prepared.
we'll see how it goes. Not since young Hutter arrived at Orlok's castle in Nosferatu has a journey to a dreaded house been so fearsome than the one in The Woman in Black. Both films and all versions of Dracula begin with the local townspeople terrified of a residence and the legends surrounding it. In this case, a green Victorian era attorney named Arthur Kipps is visiting a haunted house in the north of England, which can be reached only by a single track road on a long, narrow causeway that lies so low in a brackish sea that the waters lap its edges. Arthur's mission is to search the decrepit Gothic mansion for the papers of its late occupant. This woman is said to haunt the house in mourning for her dead child. Local legend has it that the ghost is responsible for the deaths of other local children brought about in rage as her form of vengeance. No wonder then that the locals shun Arthur, refuse him room and board, and strongly suggest he take the next train back to town. But Arthur must succeed because his job depends on it. His work at a firm of solicitors has been unsatisfactory, and he needs to support his son Joseph because his wife died 4 years ago in childbirth. As in the Dracula legend, the carriage driver refuses to take him close to the mansion. That didn't even
I
register
did.
with me.
Yeah, I did.
Maybe I guess in my back of my mind it did.
Yeah.
But a stalwart resident named Daly drives him there in his new motor car. The house is a masterpiece of production design, crumbling, forlorn, filled with the
faded and jumbled Victorian possessions of doomed lifetimes. It has a unique feature that audiences will not fail to remark upon: its own sound effects crew. At every frightening moment, and there are many, the soundtrack paralyzes us with blasts of a cacophonous
Yep.
noise.
Cacophonous.
Wow, look at that, Karen. Who wouldn't want to be in the theater next to this movie in a multiplex? I don't like your tone, Roger. The Woman in Black is Daniel Radcliffe's first film since Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. With a few other diversions, the Potter series kept him working steadily for a decade, during which he has grown taller and sprouted a crop of sideburns. But at 22, he still looks like a schoolboy, or a little young anyway, to be the father of a 4-year-old.
He did look young, but it was fine with me.
Nor does he have much gravitas. The film might have had more effect if its character had possessed more screen presence, but The Woman in Black depends mostly on the decor, location, and supporting cast, some of them playing village people and some not. The movie, nevertheless, is effective because director James Watkins knows it isn't a character study. His haunted house is the star. The illness of local children provide ominous portents. Daly's wife balances precariously on the edge of madness, and there is a most satisfactory scene at a railroad station that might have had Daniel Radcliffe wondering if he will ever in his career take a routine rail journey. So, I don't think he liked it as much as we did.
I thought Daniel Radcliffe was fine. He did look young,
He did.
but
He's
and
22.
devastated for he was still they almost sort of want you to think he's on the edge of madness too. And it's been 4 years since his wife died. That's, I mean, not that you would always be sad. I'm not saying that, but to be as devastated as he almost seemed unable to work, unable to do anything. That's why he's almost going to get fired, that kind of stuff. But it really hit him hard.
All right, are you ready to get into it, scene by scene, Karen?
Let's go.
All right, The Woman in Black from 2012. Did you watch this on Amazon Prime, Karen?
I did.
I did as well. It's rated PG-13.
Oh, mine said R.
Mine said PG-13.
Oh, maybe I just assumed it was R.
I was surprised when I saw it. I'm going to check right now just to be sure. Rated PG-13.
All right, I
on
must have
Amazon
just assumed.
Prime.
Yeah, I must have assumed it was R for frightening scenes, flashing lights, and violence.
Yes. Flashing
So
lights,
it's
violence,
scary, but I
and
guess when you
scenes.
think about it, it's not graphic,
No.
really. So I can see that.
Although I
There's-
did read that when it first came out, people were pretty upset, especially in England across the pond, because it got a rating of 12, which I guess means 12 and up. And like I said, that
I mean, I think it's scary.
they got a lot of complaints about it.
So, but if you go with gore factor, there really isn't
No.
a lot of it.
Nope. There's no nudity. There's no cursing.
There's some drinking, but
I mean, I'm not even sure what the most violent thing was.
there's only one blood thing.
Yeah, but it's not violent. No one.
No. Well, there's the fire scene. That was pretty.
That's
if you
more.
were
That's
12
more a frightening scene.
Yeah,
Not
but
violence.
it kind of is. We'll argue about it in a minute.
I guess you could call the angry townsfolk being a little violent with him, but other than that, I guess the ending is kind of a violent scene as well.
Implied for sure.
All right. Film opens and we're at a tea party with 3 girls, and they're having their little tea party, and then they just decide to get up and walk out the window, Karen,
Well, they
to
have
their
some
deaths.
creepy dolls. They're all playing. They look up to something in the corner, and it's really pretty actually because 3 young girls walk up to 3 panes of glass, open the windows, and they're tall windows, Victorian type windows, and they all go out. It was unfortunately sad, but beautifully shot.
And then we have credits. And while the credits are going, we get a little backstory about, there's a marriage and then a pregnancy and whatnot.
Yeah, and it's all done through hazy, like a wedding veil kind of thing, shot through that.
Then that cuts to Arthur looking at himself in a mirror with a straight razor to his neck, Karen. Then I wrote, is there a reflection of a girl in the mirror that says father?
No, she says Arthur.
Arthur. That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, I knew he had a little boy. Where'd that little girl come from? All right, so that was his wife, right?
Yes.
And he
So
turns
he's
around.
seeing things like
Yeah.
he's seeing her ghost.
He turns around and there's no one there. And we get a shot of some overdue bills in his briefcase, so we know that he might be in some financial problems. Then he goes to his office. He's a lawyer and he's given an assignment. He has to
All right, wait, back.
go away for a couple days.
We find out he has a son
Yes.
and there's a nanny, and his
Yes.
son has drawn some pictures of his dad leaves on Wednesday, and then they get to see each other Saturday. Is that correct? I can't remember. And the pages in between are blank because he's going to draw something every day. But he always draws his dad with a sad face because he says his dad is sad. And his dad's like, is that what I look like? Those are the most brutal things when your kid draws a family picture and sticks it up on the wall. You're like, okay. Anyway, proceed.
So he has to go away for a few days to go through a deceased woman's documents at her house to be sure that they have the final will. And apparently Arthur isn't doing well at the law firm. This is like his final warning that has to show he has some worth.
Yeah, we're not a charity.
Then we have a flashback of Arthur's son being born, and we learn that his wife didn't make it. If we didn't know already, his wife didn't make it during childbirth. So he gets on the train to go to wherever the hell he's going, and he meets the guy on the train, and the guy, I guess he's going to the same town, and he offers him a ride to the hotel from the train stop because he said it's a far walk.
Yeah, which is nice. He's also got a dog with him, most likely a mix, but mostly wire-haired Jack Russell Terrier.
Is it the same dog that we see later at the
Yeah,
house? So
yeah.
I didn't
I think that's
remember
what it is. It's a terrier, could be like a Norwich or a Norfolk, but I'm guessing it's a wire-haired Jack Russell mix.
Kind of looked like a mutt to me.
Yeah, but mostly Jack Russell. See this with wire hair, which is
She just held up a picture of a Jack Russell Terrier, boys
the
and
Jack
girls.
Russell Terrier, along with the closely related Parson Russell Terrier, is a fearless, energetic dog with sharp wit and stubborn streak. Because of their energy and brain power, these terriers excel at dog sports such as agility. Their desire to keep moving can make training challenging at first, but keep them motivated with rewards, and you will see how many complex tricks these dogs can learn. They're cute little dogs. But he has a dog with him on the train, and it's pouring rain. And I guess he's got the first automobile in the village.
Yeah.
So he's a well-off dude.
So he takes him to the hotel, and then
it's kind of a tavern looking place, right?
Yeah. And then Mr. Daly is his name, and he invites Arthur to come have dinner with he and his wife the next evening, I guess. So Arthur goes to his hotel. They don't have a room for him. They're not very hospitable, Karen.
No.
But the wife, the innkeeper wife, does feel sorry for Arthur. And so the innkeeper says, well, do you want to put him in the attic? And that's what they do, Karen. Put him in the attic. Go up to the attic, and the attic is filled with pictures of the three girls we saw at the beginning. So this is the room where the girls leaped to their deaths.
Yeah, and the only thing like they say at some point in the film, whenever anyone sees the woman in black, kids or children are killed. So we don't really find out who saw the woman in black unless it's the kids themselves. But they're mad at the guy for going up there. This is the start of it where we come in, but somebody must have seen them. So on their way up to the attic, they see a bird.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure it's a myna bird.
I think so.
Because it can it can make sounds that are very human. So they're mynas, and it has a yellow little strip on its face. Mynas are able to learn to mimic human voices or any sounds they choose. The word mina derives from the Sanskrit madana, meaning joyful or delightful, which derived from the root meaning bubbles. So derived word mina means bubbling with joy. They're a group of birds in the starling family, which were native to Iran and southern Asia.
I think you told us about the minor birds before because that sounds very familiar to me, Karen.
Probably. Just
So then,
reinforcing your knowledge, Greg.
thank you. So then Arthur the next day goes and meets with the local solicitor.
Who his boss had told him was being very uncooperative, Mr. Jerome.
And he just gives Arthur a envelope of papers and says, "Yep, here you go. Here's all you need. Here, I'll take you back to the train." And he says, "I got a driver out there ready for you. I already got your luggage in it. See ya."
Yeah, very insistent that he leaves.
But then Arthur goes out to the carriage and he pays the driver to take him to the deceased woman's house, which is Eel Marsh Manor.
I do make a note at this point that there's a blue cast to the film, which I liked, which matched his eyes a lot of the time. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. It's very gloomy, very Victorian, very Gothic.
So the next thing I have written down is there's a graveyard on the property. We drive past the graveyard and a cross stuck in the mud.
Yeah, and I couldn't tell if it was snow or water. Find out later it's water, but it looked both. And there's a really good pullback shot that shows them on the road and they become very small on the road. I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, there's cemeteries on the property.
So he gets to the house and he makes an arrangement for the driver to come back and get him like at 5 or something like that before high tide or.
Yeah, I thought that was going to play more into it, the tide, but it didn't really. They mentioned it a lot. And I thought he might try to get away or something and the tide would stop him, but didn't really play into it. Gorgeous, though.
And the next thing I have is he has quite a lot of papers to go through.
Yes. So he does end up in the kitchen and he finds a lantern and he senses someone's behind him. But one of the things that's on the table, and we see a little bit throughout the film, are through the 3 monkeys with the hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. They're on the shelf there, but they show them later where the eyeballs are following them. It's kind of creepy. So any idea where that might have originated?
It must be pretty freaking old, Karen. That's all I can say.
The see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil monkeys originated in Japan, specifically from a 17th century carving at the Toshogu Shrine in Nikko, where 3 monkeys are depicted covering their eyes, ears, and mouth, respectively. The concept is believed to be influenced by Confucius's teaching on proper conduct, using the monkey imagery to symbolize the idea of not seeing, hearing, or speaking evil. So Japan in the 17th century.
Okay. So one of the papers that he finds is a death certificate of a 7-year-old boy who drowned in the marshland. And I wrote, there's lots of sounds in the house. Lots of sounds going on in the background, including a music box.
Yes.
So he gets up and he explores the house looking for what is causing all the sounds he is hearing. He goes into a room and there's a bird's nest in the fireplace and a baby bird had fallen out of it. So he picks the baby bird up and puts it in the nest. But then there's another big mama bird, I guess, in there, Karen, and she's flying around and he goes to open the window to let the bird out. And when he does, he sees a figure in black in the cemetery.
Yes. And he also tried to open one of the doors and it was locked. And he pulls his hand away. And I thought it was covered in grease, but I think it's covered in mud.
Okay.
You know, from what I would call a bog, but I think I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, he sees her out there.
But he goes down to look for this person, and then we hear screams, and he hears horse and carriage and voices, but there's nothing in the fog. But then we do see shots of the carriage in the bog or in the marsh, and we kind of see a little bit of the boy drowning. A little bit.
The whole carriage is sinking, and we hear some man saying, save the boy, or get the boy or something.
But then he runs into the driver who's there to take him back to town.
Who looks very unhappy, like very stoic. Is this your first time listening to the Scary Spirits podcast? Or maybe you're a regular listener, but missed a few along the way. No worries. Not only can you find every episode on our website, scaryspirits.com, but you'll also get to enjoy awesome show notes too. I just want to say we really appreciate your support. Now let's get back to the show.
So once they get into town, I guess he goes to the constable to tell him what he saw. Constable doesn't seem to buy it, but he seems a little freaked out, I guess.
Until he says, yeah, he's like, la, 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 until he says he saw the woman in black. And then the constable freaks out.
And then two boys come in with their sister. We saw them earlier as he was walking through the town.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of, what's the Christopher Lee one? Where they're going and all the people, they don't come out. They all stare at him. Oh God, he's not Dracula. It's the orgy one.
Oh, okay. Yeah. The Wicker Man.
The Wicker Man. Sorry, I couldn't pull it out of my old brain.
Yeah, the orgy one.
Yeah. Remember when all the people were watching from the windows, and when he'd go by, everybody was inside only watching from the windows when the new person came? That's what it reminded me of. But they're all watching him, but they all go in the houses and close the doors and things like that.
And so anyway, the boys tell Arthur that their sister drank lye and needs help. So Arthur kind of grabs her and tries to reassure her that it's gonna be okay, it's gonna be okay. And he's yelling for the constable, and then the girl spits up a bunch of blood, and she gone, Karen. And it was good blood, not hammer, it was good hammer blood.
Okay, so swallowing sodium hydroxide may cause severe burns in the mouth, throat, and stomach. Severe scarring of tissues and death may result. Symptoms of eating or drinking sodium hydroxide may include bleeding, throwing up, or diarrhea. A drop in blood pressure may also occur. It's a strong caustic liquid that you can use in small amounts. It says for cooking, but I thought it meant for cleaning. It's corrosive, burns the throat, esophagus, and stomach with permanent damage if swallowed. She's not in good shape. And she doesn't make it, as you said.
She go. So then Arthur goes back to the hotel and shares a drink with the innkeeper's wife, Karen.
After the mynah bird he hears crying and goes upstairs, and it's the bird. And then the wife, it's kind of like, okay, the bird's imitating me. That was me crying. And I think it was her kids that jumped, right? Because isn't that, yeah. So
then she begs him not to go back to Eelmarsh House. Or Eelmarsh Manor.
They talk about his son, and she says, cherish and love him. And he says, I wouldn't be here if I didn't cherish and love him. He has to be there.
So then Arthur meets Mr. Daly and his wife for dinner. And they dine with their dogs, Karen.
Wait. First, he finds Mr. Daly at a mausoleum where we find out his son Nicholas has passed when he was younger. And then he says, don't bring up Nicholas to my wife. Don't talk about kids. Don't talk about any of this. So then he goes in for dinner, and he says, and Mr. Daly says, the twins will not be joining us for dinner. And the wife says, oh, yes, they will. So what does she bring out?
Two dogs.
Chihuahuas. Two Chihuahuas. A Mexican breed of toy dog. It's named for the Mexican state of Chihuahua and is the smallest dog breed in the world. It's usually kept as a companion animal. If you had to guess from 1 to 100 what rank the Chihuahua is in intelligence, what would you say, Greg?
1 to 100?
Yeah.
75.
67.
Okay.
You underestimated them. But yes, she feeds the dogs at the dinner table. She's a little mad. Like she's a little off her rocker.
I don't know if she is or not.
Well, they want us to think she is.
Yes. So then Elizabeth, that's Mrs. Daly.
The dogs are dressed up in little sailor outfits. I mean, it's all in.
But she begins, I wrote, channeling her late son, question mark.
Yeah, so she says, there's actually a very nice picture or painting, I would say, of their son on the wall. And she says, I did that. I like to sketch and draw. And she said, so did Nicholas. She brings up children and, and asks Arthur questions, and he answers truthfully. And then she says, Nicholas would like to draw something for you now. And she gets all possessed and starts carving into the dinner table. There was one other thing before we go a lot further. Arthur is reading the paper and looking at an ad for a medium to communicate with the dead. And it kind of gets.
I didn't pay any attention, and afterwards I was thinking, I bet that was important.
Well, I mean, it was just, yes, there was just one small snippet. It just tells us, I think, that he would believe this stuff instead of being a skeptic.
Yeah,
He's walking
spiritualists
in,
and spiritualism.
because he misses his wife and wants to talk to her.
And
So
it was of the time as well, spiritualism.
and they do talk about it a little bit, he and Mr. Daly, but he says mostly what they offer. Mr. Daly thinks they're charlatans. Arthur says, well, mostly what they offer is disappointment. So, but he's got that little nudge of, yeah, I would believe this stuff.
And Mr. Daly's yelling for the medicine. And then I wrote, did they give her chloroform?
Yeah, they just knock her out.
Okay.
Can you imagine being at dinner with your spouse? The medicine. Like, I've had enough of what you're saying. You're out.
I've had enough. I don't like your tone.
I don't like your tone. The medicine.
So this is when then Mr. Daly warns Arthur about spiritualisms and fake mediums and whatnot.
I think because he think his wife has obviously done that kind of stuff.
And the Dalys did invite Arthur to stay with them, so he's staying there. And while he's there, he's looking around. I think he goes downstairs to get the pictures his son draw from his coat or something.
Yeah.
And he walks past the table and sees that the picture Mrs. Daly carved into it appears to be someone hanging from a noose.
Yeah, I thought it was a child, but it is someone hanging.
So I guess next day they go to the solicitor's
And we did
office.
pass by Mrs. Daly rocking the chihuahuas in their pajamas in the cribs. So,
Yes. Cradles.
yes.
Next day they go to the solicitor's office and they find a girl who has locked herself in the basement, or she's been locked in the basement, one of the two. I guess she had to be locked in there. She couldn't.
Yeah, I think they locked her in the basement.
And she tells Arthur to go away, and she blames him for the other girl's death, the one who drank the lye.
Yeah, Victoria Hardy.
Then we have angry townsfolk. They want Arthur gone. Mr. Daly says he will take him to the station, but he lies. He backs up and guns it and almost runs over the angry townsfolk. And he takes Arthur back to Eel Marsh House.
Yeah, so they're all super. They don't have pitchforks or anything, but they're trying to stop him from going back up there, and he does. They plow right through. And Arthur the whole time is telling them they're all superstitious. It's rubbish, that kind of stuff.
So Arthur says he's going to work there through the night because Mr. Daly offers to coming back before high tide or after high tide or something. But Mr. Daly does give Arthur his dog, so he will have a companion.
I say here, I hope they don't kill the dog.
Then we see him inside, and he's trying to unlock that same door, I think, Karen. But now he has a bunch of keys, but apparently he ain't got the right one because he can't open it.
He's lighting candles. He's lighting up the house. He does seem a little more intimidated by the house now, but he's doing a lot more than I ever would.
Yeah. He goes in another room and finds more paperwork under a bed. And he keeps finding birthday cards, right, for this boy who died or whatever. And as he's looking under the bed, he sees a shadow in the bathroom, the mirror, or the glass in the bathroom door. But he goes in there and there's nobody there. Then the tide comes in apparently because the manor is like an island, or the house is on an island, it looks like. And then back in the house, the dog, we see he barks at a shadow as it crosses the window.
Yeah. He does a good job of barking.
Yeah, dog runs after it. Arthur follows him. We see a figure in black watching them, and he finds the grave of the 7-year-old boy who drowned. He also finds the grave of Alice's sister, Jeanette. Alice is the woman, right, who owned the house.
I guess. I wasn't 100% clear on that, but I guess so. But so I just said it's a family graveyard.
Yeah. It is the sister of the lady who owned the house.
It is, but
The
I didn't
lady who
know.
just passed away
Yeah.
is,
So that was Alice that just passed.
yes.
Okay.
So then while he's walking back to the house, he sees a face of someone up in an upstairs window. Of course, he
And
goes to investigate.
it's not a pretty face. It's a creepy, like almost skeletal, but with skin on,
Once again, there's nobody there, but we see someone behind him.
in a reflection.
Yeah. So he finds some more documents, and we learn that Jeanette had to give up her son because she was found unfit to care for him, and her sister Alice adopted him.
With her sister's husband, I think, right? It's the boy's father. And
I don't know.
see, that's what I
I
thought
didn't
it
get
said.
that. I didn't see that. I didn't get that part, but don't know. And Jeanette blames Alice for the boy's death. We find lots of letters and things.
Yeah. Rotten hell, Jeanette. And, like all
No,
kinds.
Alice.
Oh,
Rotten
sorry.
hell, Alice.
Yes.
Or rotten hell, Jeanette. Signed
Yes.
Jeanette. So then he finds the death certificate for Jeanette, and apparently she hung herself in the nursery, Karen. Age 30, I believe it said. Then we see shadows moving about.
Because he starts to fall asleep and he's asleep. And then the dog wakes him
Right.
up by barking.
Dog barks and wakes him up, and he finds the pictures that he was looking at right there before he fell asleep. They're now defaced, like someone has scratched out the faces. So then he hears a noise coming from the room that he can't get into. Tries to get in, can't. So he goes downstairs to find something to bust the door down or open with. You think he finds a hatchet.
Yeah. So I said there's lots of long walking scenes in this movie. Either the main character or the ghost down the hallway. Now another long, so he goes and gets the hatchet, like now another long walking scene as he goes back to where he was. And
Roger Ebert is right. The house is one of the characters.
it definitely is. I'm saying it's not, they were very tense scenes, very intense. I just noticed there were a lot of them. Doesn't mean, I had to find something I didn't like, right?
So he returns upstairs with his hatchet, and the door is open, Karen. He sees it down the end of the hallway, open. So he's got to walk all the way down the hallway to the door. But inside the room, there's a rocking chair, rocking back and forth pretty violently. I guess that's pretty
Yes.
violent. And it stops eventually, but he sees a piece of the wallpaper is torn from the wall, so he tears the rest of it off. And beneath that wallpaper, it's written, "You could have saved him," on the wall. So then he goes and he looks out a window and he sees someone in the marsh next to a cross. It says, "Is that a little boy?" Question mark.
Crawling out of the mud.
And so he runs downstairs and there's someone at the door. Someone's at the door, Karen. Who could it be this time of night?
Yeah, really jiggling the door
In the
and pushing
rain.
the door.
So he opens the door and of course no one is there. So he goes out into the rain and
All right, would you have opened that door?
hell no.
No. Especially when he said, "Who's there?" and it stopped and then started again. But still, no way. I would
No
have been
way.
barricading the door. He just swings it open.
So he goes out into the rain, and when he goes out, he sees a group of children out there in the graveyard. And I wrote, "They don't look so good."
No. I said, well, that's creepy.
And he runs back inside. And then we hear the music box again. So he goes back into the nursery.
Well, he follows, there's wet footsteps. There's footprints all the way up to the nursery.
Yeah.
So he follows these little footprints.
I missed that too. Gets up there and the toys are all moving. And
I said, this can't be good.
he sees a shadow run across the room and then a body is seen hanging from the ceiling and it drops. That's pretty violent too, I guess. So then, of course, he freaked out and dropped his candle and it went out. So he goes to relight it and then he sees the face of a child all covered in mud. Lots of good startle scares.
Yeah. Then we hear some squishy sounds.
So then he goes to his room and I think another child or something rises out of his bed.
I think that's the muddy boy.
Yeah, that's what I think too. So he goes and he starts to run out the house and Mr. Daly is there at the door when he opens it.
I'm like, where's the dog?
So then they're driving back And Arthur tells Mr. Daly about what he saw. Mr. Daly thinks it's all in his head. It's his mind playing tricks with him. They get back into town, and oh my God, the solicitor's house is on fire. So Arthur runs in and tries to save the girl in the basement because I think he's the only one that knows she's down there.
Except for the solicitor.
Yeah, and he gets down there, and the basement is engulfed in flames.
I think her name's Lucy.
Yes, Lucy. Think so. Is it Lucy? It might be. So he sees the girl, and he sees the woman in black down there across the room who's got to go through these flames.
And he tells her, I'm going to come get you.
Yeah.
And the girl looks straight at him.
Girl's holding a lantern, a gas lantern. She picks it up and throws it at her feet, igniting herself on fire.
That's pretty violent.
I guess so.
I would call that gory. If I was 12, that's disturbing.
Yeah, probably. Yes, you're probably right.
Because she sets herself on fire.
Yep.
I said, Arthur gets out alive, but the town is not happy to see him.
No. Then we see Arthur visiting Mrs. Daly at the mausoleum where he met Mr. Daly. And we learn that Mrs. Daly's son drowned, and she tells him that whenever the woman in black has been seen, a child has died.
Yeah, so she
Seen
tells
by
him what's
anybody.
going on. Yeah.
Doesn't matter where.
I guess.
It's what
So
she
she's
says.
not rooted to the house because she's all over the place. But I thought she had to be
Around the
antagonized.
house. Yeah, she's around.
Like I thought she had to be seen at the house, and then she would go off and kill some children.
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, she is in the basement of the solicitor.
But why? That's because Arthur has seen her. But why the other kids? Why the kids? Why the Daly's kid? Why the three
know.
girls? I don't know.
But then Mrs. Daly starts channeling her son again, and she's speaking as him. It sounds like a different.
Yeah, they
it's a different
manipulate
voice.
her voice. Yeah.
And she says, she takes us. They took her child away, so now she takes us. Is what she says.
Yeah. And did
And
we
then-
see? We
then she
see her
says-
child's death
then she
reenacted.
says- Yeah, we do. And then she says, she saw you to Arthur. And then she starts scratching something into the mausoleum.
Yeah, what was that? She's drawing a picture.
That was the Tuesday picture that Arthur's son drew.
Oh, okay. I knew it was important. I was like, what is that? But I looked down at my notes and then I looked back up and it was gone. So
Then Mr. Daly takes Arthur to the town to try to send a telegram to stop his son and Nanny from coming because they're leaving that day.
right.
But of course, the telegraph office burned in the fire, Karen.
It's burnt to the ground. Well, not exactly.
Nearest
but yeah,
town's
it
an
burned
hour
it.
away, and they would have left by then. So, too late. So Arthur comes up with a plan to try to lift the curse by reuniting Jeanette with her son. So next thing, we're at the bog or the marsh.
Well, I called it a bog. And because here's the thing, because we did the difference between a swamp and a marsh. And neither of those is what a bog is a wetland that's made up of soft, spongy ground that's rich in partially decomposed plant matter called peat. Bogs are often found in cool northern climates. Wouldn't you say that's what this was?
Yeah,
Or
it's
what?
a bog.
Yeah, because I mean, he goes into it. And
There are
he's
quite
covered,
a few bogs in England. I do know that.
but he goes into it. You're right. His plan is to reunite them. And Mr. Daly said no one's ever found them or the boy. And he says, yeah, but they didn't have what we have, which is the car. So he's going to go in and get the boy.
So Arthur ties a rope around his waist and he walks into the bog to try to find the boy.
Which almost is like an oil pit or something, the way it's,
It's the nighttime too, and they did it. It's dark.
true.
And the other end of the rope is tied to Mr. Daly's car. So Arthur goes under with the rope, and he's down there for a long time. He tells Mr. Daly he feels it right underneath his feet. I guess it's the carriage.
Yeah, I thought it was the kid.
So did I at first. But then Arthur goes down. He says he's going to tie the rope off, and he's down there for a long time. So Mr. Daly tries to pull him up. So
Kind of
he
panics, yeah.
puts the car in reverse, and he pulls up the carriage out of the bog. And Arthur is on the carriage as well, so he comes up with the carriage and he finds the body of the boy. The carriage begins to sink back into the bog because the car's not powerful enough, I guess, to hold it.
Well, no, it's heavy and it's stuck in a bog.
And so but Arthur gets the body of the boy out. So he goes into the house and puts it in the nursery, Karen, wraps it up and puts it in the nursery.
Yeah, I was going to try to look up decomposition time in a bog, but I thought, yeah, I'm not going to ding that on my computer. But do you have any idea how long it was been in there?
A long time, I would think.
You think?
Well, the sister died at 30. Who knows when Alice died?
True. Okay. I was just trying to figure it out because he looked a little mummified when they pulled him out. It wasn't a skeleton. He was all intact.
Yeah,
like
he looked a
you
little
didn't get
mummified.
like, I got an arm. You know,
Right.
like,
Yes. So Arthur puts him in the nursery and then he puts the cards that his mother wrote him around the body and he winds up all the toys and gets them moving and playing music. He's trying to lure the lady in there.
he also puts a rosary on the boy, and I don't know if that was an issue or not, but
True. Then Mr. Daly is in another part of the house and he sees his son.
and
So
he
he
looks
goes to-
freaked out, Mr. Daly does, which
so
I'm
he-
like is an appropriate reaction to what's happening.
Yeah, so he goes to the room to see his son or where his son was, and his son locks him in.
Yeah, so to protect him, to what? I couldn't. This is where I started to lose
Don't know.
track a little bit of what's happening. 'Cause
Maybe
what-
to protect him. So then the rocking chair in the nursery starts rocking again, and the woman in black enters the nursery. That's all I wrote about all that goes on in there.
And
But-
she screams in his face a couple times, in Arthur's face, very
Yeah,
close to him, and then
disappears.
yeah,
So then when she does, the door opens, and Mr. Daly can leave the room he's in.
so up until this point, sometimes these things happen, right? You watch a lot of these movies, and I'm thinking they just kind of saved the boy, right? And I'm like, the boy's the evil one, right? Like the woman in black's protecting everyone from the boy. The boy's the one doing all the things. No,
You're way overthinking it, Karen.
I know, but I thought, oh, it's going to be the boy. It's going to be the boy. It's not the boy. It's definitely the lady in black.
So Arthur and Mr. Daly take the body of the boy and they put it in the crypt with Jeanette.
Yeah, they dig her up, basically.
And she's more skeletal.
Yeah, she's a skeleton.
So she's been gone a while. And she's been gone.
But he's only
The boy's
like
been gone a lot longer.
Yeah.
He looks
so-
he's more, like you said, mummified. Then Arthur and Mr. Daly drive back to town.
They're all confident they did it.
Yep. Yep. Woohoo. But then back at the manor, we hear a voice that keeps saying never forgive over and over again.
Yeah. So what's happening? Is she just a vengeful spirit at that point?
Yes, she is. She's pissed. She's had enough.
She doesn't care that
never
they tried to.
No.
Okay.
No, well, apparently she wasn't all there to begin with, Karen. That's why they took the kid from her, unless you think Alice was evil and did it.
It's hard to say.
I know. Who knows? This is based on a book.
Oh, it is. Okay.
It is. This is actually the second film made from the book. There was one in 1989, a Woman in Black film, which is based on the same book. So it'd kind of be interesting to see that.
I bet it's a creepy book.
So then we're cut to the train station. Arthur's son and his nanny arrive on the train, and Arthur and Mr. Daly meet him. Arthur tells the nanny to go buy a ticket to go right back to London.
Finally, some sense.
Right now. We're going back right now. And as Arthur and Mr. Daly talk, Arthur's son is lured onto the tracks by the woman in black.
Yeah, he lets go of his hand.
Arthur rushes to save him as a train approaches, but train hits him.
Yeah, there's a squish sound.
They're gone. So Mr. Daly sees visions of the dead children and the woman in black as the train goes passing by. Train passes, and then we cut to Arthur getting up from the tracks, holding his son. He opens his eyes.
He's like, Mr. Daly.
And no one is there. No one's at the train station. And then they see his wife down the tracks. So Arthur is reunited with his wife, and they walk away together into the fog.
Okay, so I have questions.
That's what happened.
Yes, that's what happened. But Mr. Daly sees all the kids and the woman in black.
Yeah.
So why are they all still there? And Arthur and his kid get to go off with his wife. Like, did they not have a grandparent or someone that could have met? She killed all the kids and she killed Arthur and his son, but Arthur and his son get to go off into the white fog with his wife all happy. But the rest of the kids look like miserable zombies.
Just the way it goes, Karen.
I didn't understand that. I didn't get that. I missed something.
No, that's what.
No, but why?
Why
do all the kids have to stay with the woman in black on her property and Arthur gets to go off with his wife and his kid? And they all look
maybe
like
maybe she was doing them a solid since they reunited her with her son.
maybe his wife, who he's seeing around, protected them and got them out. I don't get
Could
it.
be.
But the woman in black is still around.
She is.
So there is sequel potential.
Yeah,
and
so but the next thing we see after that is the woman in black. We get a shot of the woman in black.
And she looks right out at, she almost breaks the, what is it? Third wall and looks at us.
Yeah.
So
credits the end.
The sequel doesn't have Daniel Radcliffe or any. Well, that makes sense because he's dead.
He's gone.
Yeah.
But Hammer announced in April of the same year. This came out in February. They announced in April, 2 months later, that they're going to do a sequel.
It must have been successful.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this one was. Yeah, earned $20 million in its opening weekend.
It's pretty good.
Biggest U.S. opening for a Hammer film of all time, Karen.
I mean, if they still have the house set, that's all you need.
It made $127 million worldwide, the highest grossing British horror film in 20 years. Yeah, it must have been a big deal because I went to it. We didn't go to the movies. Well, we went probably more than we do now, but
I don't remember it.
I think it's because I wanted to see Harry Potter.
I'm sure.
No, I knew it was a Hammer film, and I probably forced my wife to go see it. What did you think of the cocktail, Karen?
Nah, it's not my favorite. Too much alcohol, Kahlua in it. I couldn't even think of something to compare it to. You know, sometimes we'll say, oh, it's like a martini or a tequila sunrise, or I don't.
Like a Kahlua drink.
Ugh, not for me.
I was kind of surprised how good it was.
I wonder if I should throw in instead of putting the coffee thing in, put the chocolate in.
Yeah.
Like not creamed cacao, but the other one that we might have.
Uh-huh.
I don't know, to take the
chocolate liqueur.
Yeah, it's the bitterness for me that I don't like.
I don't think it's that bitter.
Yeah, I don't.
The Grand Marnier sweetens it up a bit, I think.
Yeah, but as long as I can taste it, I'm not.
Get the orange. I got the orange. It's like orange coffee.
Coffee and orange is just
well, chocolate and orange. I mean,
chocolate and orange is good though.
Okay.
But coffee and orange is not.
All right. Yeah, that makes sense.
How many orange coffee drinks are there? Come on.
I don't know.
None.
I thought it was fine. I left the ice in mine. I strained it and then poured the ice back in. Because once again, it didn't fill my glass. All right. Anything we learned today, Karen?
We learned about Chihuahuas, Jack Russell Terriers, where the original see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil monkeys came from, what a bog is, and about mynah birds. Oh, and what happens when you drink lye. Don't drink lye.
No. Yep. Are we ready to move on to next film?
Let's.
All right, Karen, I believe it's your choice.
It is.
What film have you chosen for us next week?
It's a film for lovers, Greg. It's called Valentine from 2001.
Any reason you chose this film, Karen?
It's for lovers, Greg.
Yeah, so
I think 2 days after it comes out is Valentine's Day. Is that correct?
Oh, okay. I see what you did.
It's a stretch, but I made it work.
Do we have a cocktail?
We do.
And what is that?
It's going to be the Bloody Martini.
Okay, what are we going to need for that?
Well, this bright red cocktail gets its bloody color from pomegranate juice, mixed with vermouth and gin for a scarily great cocktail made perfect with a garnish of fresh blackberries and mint. You're going to need, well, this is in milliliters, so for the scientists out there, 7 to 8 ice cubes, 15 mils of extra dry vermouth, 75 mils of dry gin, 60 mils of pomegranate juice. Put the ice cubes in the shaker, add the vermouth, stir about 20 times. Then add the gin and the pomegranate juice and stir gently and strain into a martini glass. For garnish, put 4 blackberries in a sieve. Use a fork or masher to...
We're going to muddle?
We're going to muddle. It says stir through 1 teaspoon of icing sugar until dissolved. Drizzle around the rim of the glass. Slice the 3 blackberries and place on the side. So if you want to, you can muddle some blackberries and add some sugar. Icing sugar is powdered sugar.
Okay. And
you can make it go down the glass. It looks messy, but since it's a slasher film, I'm sure that will apply.
All right. Anyone you need to thank this week, Karen?
As usual, we need to thank our listener. There are a lot of podcasts out there. We appreciate you spending time with us. What about you, Greg? Who do you need to thank?
Karen, I'm going to thank the band Verse 13 for providing all the music in the Scary Spirits podcast.
The music definitely makes the podcast better.
Anything else, Karen?
Please drink responsibly.
Yes.
Thanks for listening to the Scary Spirits podcast, where the movies might be iffy, but the drinks are always solid. We would love to hear from you. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Scary Spirits Podcast, or go to our website, scaryspirits.com. And if you want the direct line, email us at info@scaryspirits.com. If you really want to help us out, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. And remember, always drink responsibly. See you next week.